I saw the news at the company. On the TV screen, there was footage of Chairman Hong Woozing and Director Lee Seop being taken into custody. Director Lee Seop bowed his head deeply, but Chairman Hong Woozing stared defiantly at the camera with his head held high. He had a self-assured expression as if questioning what he had done wrong. Even if he went to prison, it seemed unlikely that his thoughts would change. The labor union at Woozing Enterprise safely returned to work. The issue of overnight work was abolished, and they immediately decided to implement a two-shift system. Taekyu said, "Why did this simple issue escalate to this point?" "You're right. There were no new pieces of evidence presented and no change in the law in the meantime. It seemed like the prosecution and the media hadn't done their roles properly. While Woozing Enterprise and Chongju Consulting were punished, Eun Sung Cha managed to escape unscathed. Both Woozing Enterprise and Eun Sung Cha denied any involvement or instructions from the company's side. The prosecution also did not investigate Eun Sung Cha." Taekyu lay on the sofa and said, "Well, it seems to have been resolved." Despite this, there was still a lingering uneasy feeling. While Sukbeam was fortunate, thinking of Jong-soo made a heavy burden weigh in one's heart. Even if they compensated the families now, the dead would not come back to life. If only we had known a little sooner, we could have prevented it. But isn't the intensity of overnight work highest in the financial sector? Just look at our Nuna. She went into Golden Gate and didn't get a proper night's sleep for years. Indeed, the labor intensity in the financial sector is brutal. Yet the compensation is significant, which is why there is little complaint. After enduring such hardships for a few years, a salary of 100 million won would seem trivial. Isn't it common for labor intensity to correspond with wages? Don't people know the military is tough for nothing? Receiving only tens of thousands of won a month and having to do that work is tough. If they paid around 5 million won each, one could serve happily. If they offer 1,000 per month, would you consider re-enlisting? Are you crazy? I wouldn't go even if they offered 5,000 per month. But you still have to attend the reserve forces, right? The reserve forces. Is there no way to pay and skip this? I had a phone conversation with Yuri after a long time. What are you up to, senior? We haven't been in touch for a while. I sensed a hint of displeasure in her voice. Sorry. I was going to contact you after the ex-cop bidding ended, but something came up unexpectedly. It's about Woozing Enterprises, right? I saw it on the news. Why did you go there? Well, I explained the recent events to her. Upon hearing my story, Yuri was taken aback. Really? How did that happen? Is that person okay now? He's doing much better now. That's a relief. Yuri changed the subject. Tomorrow is Christmas. What are your plans? Do you have any appointments? Yes, I do have plans. Yuri was surprised by my response. What plans? Could it be? I'm going to have dinner with my mother. Ah, I see. Right. Christmas is traditionally spent with family. It's a very wholesome and good idea. Her voice seemed a bit deflated. Was it because of her mood? Feeling apologetic, I said, "Come visit the office later. I'll treat you to something delicious and show you around the company." Really? That's a promise, senior. Yes. As I was about to hang up and get back to work, I saw Taekyu lying on the sofa playing games. Why do you always play games here? Go downstairs. I get bored when I'm alone. You have to endure that boredom to be a good manager. Shouldn't he really take some management classes under Hyunju's Nuna? Did you buy everything? While I was working, Taekyu went shopping for appliances and furniture for the house. Yep. I went to Seosung Digital Plaza and a furniture store, picked out the most expensive ones from here to there and had them delivered. Did you do that again? Taekyu put down the gamepad and said, "I'm hungry. What do you want for lunch?" "Jajangmyeon. Go to the cafeteria at." True to his word, Sijo Michael Lee had created a cafeteria for the staff in the building. The food is all organic and of the highest quality, and cooked by chefs from the hotel. It was almost lunchtime when Ellie came over. "What are you doing, Jin-Hoo?" "I'm going for lunch." Ellie turned to me. "So what are your Christmas plans?" I gave the same answer I had given to Yuri earlier. "I'm going to have lunch with my mom, and we're going to take a tour of the new house, even though we haven't moved in yet." "Oh, I see. What about you?" Ellie gave me a wistful look. "I don't have any plans. It's just so depressing to spend Christmas alone in a foreign country." "Ah." I momentarily forgot that Ellie's hometown is Hong Kong. Originally working in Hong Kong, Ellie volunteered to follow when Hyunju was appointed as the director of the Korean branch. As she has no family or friends in Korea, she must feel very lonely. Why don't you spend time with Hyunju, Nuna? Ellie let out a long sigh. Yeah, that's right. I'll spend this Christmas with Jessica. I'll be called to work by Jessica anyway if I'm alone in the hotel room. Christmas is the biggest festival in Christianity. Ellie, a Catholic, must have mixed feelings. But why work even on such a day? I'll be in a good mood, smelling of cigarettes, working on a happy Christmas. I'll be going now. I grabbed Ellie, who turned around with drooping shoulders. Wait a minute. She immediately stopped in her tracks. Why? If it's okay, let's have a meal together on Christmas. She slightly lowered her head. No. It's a gathering of families, so it wouldn't be right to intrude without noticing. What are you talking about? You coming will make my mother happy. You met her once before, remember? Is it really okay? Of course. Besides, Taekyu will go with us. With her eyes sparkling, Ellie grabbed my hand tightly. Thank you. Thanks to you, I feel like I can have a warm Christmas. Oh sure. Seeing that you like it this much, it seems like you've been quite lonely by yourself all this time. Taekyu, who was lying on the sofa, got up and said, Then I should ask Nuna to come with us too. Otherwise she will be working alone, right? Good idea. Come to think of it, Henry is in a foreign country as well. Senior Sanjiop will probably go down to his hometown during New Year as well. It would be nice to invite everyone, right? When it was mentioned that many people were coming, Mother seemed to actually like it. X-Corp's security guards were deployed at the house, and a new housekeeper was also hired. After parking, we took the elevator and went up to the first floor. Mother had arrived early and finished preparing to welcome the guests. Come on in. Various dishes, including a cake, were prepared on the long dining table in the main kitchen. I was surprised and asked, Did you really prepare all this by yourself? Mother smiled and said, I prepared it with the working ladies. I told them to spend Christmas with their families, so everyone left after setting up. You did well. We sat around the table. I poured wine I had prepared into each glass. You've all worked hard throughout the year with Jinho. There's not much, but please enjoy the meal. We will enjoy it. Mother asked Ellie and Henry, It must have been tough coming from abroad. Is the food to your liking? Henry awkwardly replied in Korean, It's delicious. We are enjoying it. Ellie smiled brightly. It's really delicious. Feel free to speak comfortably, Mother. Should I? After finishing the meal, we moved to the living room. The firewood was burning in the fireplace. With everyone gathered like this, it feels like Christmas. Taekyu sat on the sofa and said, As expected, home is nice. No matter how good hotels are, they just don't feel like home. That's true. Mother remarked as if impressed. Home is really nice. I couldn't have imagined our son living in a house like this. By the way, the former owner of this house, Cha Young, is currently in custody awaiting trial at the first instance. Have you seen the whole house? Mother nodded. I looked around here and there earlier. How about living here together? I asked, but Mother shook her head. I like our previous house. Sleeping in such a big place, I might not even be able to fall asleep. But you must feel lonely by yourself. It's okay. Rather than feeling lonely, I talked with the ladies who were working while cooking earlier. They are all nice people. Don't take them for granted just because they get paid. When you go home, they are all precious mothers and family members. Got it. I understand. Don't behave irritably or get angry with your mother like you did earlier. When did I do that? Ellie chuckled beside them. Mom, did Jinho really do that? Yes. How much trouble he used to cause when he was younger. Taekyu nodded with a smile. Our Jinho did get into a lot of accidents. I should have taken better care of him. Don't laugh. Half of those accidents were caused with you. Sangyip Sr. said, Oh, it's snowing. We all turned our heads. The pure white snow was falling heavily. Ellie looked out the window and said, It's so beautiful. Perhaps it was because of the wine or maybe the warmth of the fireplace. Ellie's cheeks were turning red. She was wearing a checkered skirt with a sweater, which suited her very well, unlike usual. Hyunju got up. Wait. I'll be back in a moment. Where are you going, Nuna? To smoke a cigarette. Ellie twinkled her eyes and said, Let's go together. In the end, we all went out to the garden together. The garden had turned pure white in the meantime. Hyunju smoked on one side and Ellie joyfully played with the snow like a child. Hong Kong doesn't get much snow, so when I see snow it feels so fascinating. Jinhu, what do you think when you see snow falling? I paused for a moment then said, I remember clearing snow till I was about to die, carrying a shovel in the army. After Christmas, the company became extremely busy with year-end accounting. In the midst of it all I received a phone call. The caller was none other than team leader Seo Sang-won, who led the a team at Unsung Group. I have considered the proposal you mentioned. Have you made a decision? Although we had met for a recruitment offer, I didn't have high expectations. He was already labeled as a traitor for leaking bid prices. If he came to our side we would face severe criticism. After a moment, team leader Seo Sang-won spoke. I trust the promise made by the CEO. Really? Yes. Can my team also accept the offer together? Since they are colleagues I have worked with since the Redstone Group, I can guarantee their skills. Not only did he come, but he also wanted to bring his team members along. It was truly like a pumpkin rolling in like a tumbleweed. I happily replied, of course. We will ensure that you can work independently as before. Thank you. I will visit as soon as the arrangements are completed. After ending the call I raised both arms in triumph. Great. Recruiting such talent in the financial industry requires a lot of effort. However, thanks to Chae-young's blunder, we unintentionally caught a big fish. The year-end party was held at the OTK company building. For some reason word of the party spread and requests to attend flooded in from all over. Particularly, there was a surge of contact from opposition and ruling party politicians. The logic was that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Since my relationship with President Park Si-hyung and the ruling party, the Korean National Party, wasn't good, they believed I would cater to their side. Some prominent politicians openly expressed their expectations for sponsorship. When doing business in Korea, it's impossible to completely ignore political issues. We may join hands when needed in the future, but not now. If I start mingling with politicians, the media will surely make a fuss. As the year-end event was a modest ceremony, I declined all external requests to attend. However, on the day of the party an unexpected guest arrived. Chase Southwell, the Asia CEO of Golden Gate, had come to look around Korea. We greeted each other warmly after a long time. The appearance of the legendary Asian investor was a delight for Golden Gate, as well as the employees of OTK Company and K Company. And so, as the tumultuous year came to an end, a new year finally began. We have finished moving. At XCOP they sent a new security and protection officer to take care of home security. Nice to see you again. I'm Lee Cheol-jin. I will be responsible for your security from now on, Seo. I'll do my best. Weren't you supposed to not do personal security? I later found out that his skills and experience were well known at XCOP. Many sought him out, but he turned down all requests for personal security. He didn't want to cater to high-ranking individuals just to please them. Team leader Lee Cheol-jin smiled. I volunteered this time. I thought it would be fun to work with both of you. It seems we left a good impression while resolving the Woozing Company case. For us, it's more comfortable to have someone we know rather than a stranger. That's great. We look forward to working with you. As we entered the house, security guards and housekeepers were waiting. Since they would be the ones helping us from now on, we greeted each of them individually. I poured myself a cup of coffee and went into the living room. Sitting on the couch, I gazed out at the garden. A new beginning now, Taekyu asked. What are your plans for this year? I chuckled and replied, to be honest, I didn't have any specific plans last year either. I didn't know if Brexit would happen or if Ronald would be elected. We just ended up here by chance. I wonder how this year will turn out. At the beginning of the new year, we started restructuring our greetings. First, I called in Michael Lee, the head of HR, for a discussion. I reviewed the documents. Security team, facilities management team, HR team, finance team, general affairs team, legal team, public relations team, a team, planning and coordination team, and so on. The security and facilities management issues have been resolved by acquiring XCOP. I am in charge of the HR team, and I have organized the finance and general affairs teams. We need to recruit more tax accountants and accountants. What about the legal team? We are currently outsourcing, but I recommend internal operations. I nodded. Should we even acquire a law firm? As for the M, a team, as Seo Sangwon, who was in the Unsung group, finishes up his work there, he will bring his team members here. That's good news. TL/N, Seo Sangwon was the scapegoat in bidding price for X-Cop. OTK Company and K Company plan to continue acquiring and merging domestic and foreign companies. The shortage of a manpower will improve with Seo Sangwon's arrival. We also need a public relations team. As you know, almost everyone is familiar with OTK Company. Startup companies go to great lengths to make their names known. However, we didn't need to do that because we were already globally recognized due to past incidents. While our brand recognition is high, the majority of opinions are negative. Considering that our country's perception of financial capital is not particularly positive. Korea has grown around industrial capital. On the other hand, during the IMF era, foreign financial capital flooded in, swallowing and dominating Korean companies. One of the notable incidents was the Lone Star evasion case. Furthermore, we don't have a good relationship with mainstream media. The reason being my disagreements with the government. Right-wing groups criticize OTK Company as a traitorous entity and treat me as a target. Yet even left-wing groups don't particularly favor us. We're in a position not welcomed by either side of the political spectrum. The media are pointing out that OTK Company has been established in a tax haven and has attacked domestic and international financial markets several times. Well, they're not wrong. Since OTK Company is not engaged in B2C business, there is currently no issue, but in the long term they will need a public relations team. Who do you think would be a good team leader? Michael handed me the documents he had prepared. I looked at the familiar faces of the 3 recommendations and smiled. We then discussed the planning and coordination team. The planning team plays a control tower role in managing the organization within the company. Most conglomerates have a planning office under the group. As it is a core organization within the company, usually the most trustworthy person is appointed. Michael asked me, "Do you have someone in mind?" I nodded. Yes. After finishing our business discussion, we chatted. How's life in Korea? Both I and my wife are enjoying it. Since Michael arrived, greetings and organizational structure quickly stabilized. If it weren't for him, we would have faced significant challenges. How about work at the company? It's fun right now. But I have a restless nature and may become bored by the end of the contract period. That's why I traveled with my wife after leaving the previous company. If he decide to leave, it will be tough to hold him even with a salary of over $1 million. Don't worry, I'll make it more enjoyable in the future. Michael smiled at my words. I will look forward to it. After Michael Lee left, I called in another employee. Shortly after, Senior Manager Ji-hong entered the CEO's office. I am Team Leader Young Ji-hong. Please have a seat. Ji-hong sat down and the secretary brought in coffee. He seemed quite nervous, as if worried he was called in for something he did wrong. Currently, you are conducting training for new employees, right? Yes, that's correct. I got straight to the point. We are going to establish a promotions team. How about you take charge? The primary responsibilities will include promoting OTK Company and K Company and engaging in community service activities. Ji-hong is cheerful by nature and enjoys meeting people. He would probably be well suited for this role. As you know, the promotions team is a crucial organization. So, I prefer someone reliable to handle it, and it seems there's no one better than you for the role. Ji-hong's face brightened at my words. I will do my best. Choose team members who you think will fit well in the role. Once you have a list, I will review it. Understood. I then called in another employee. A young man with blonde hair and blue eyes walked in, looking like a Hollywood actor. It is said that he is extremely popular among female employees within the company. Since coming to Korea, Henry has been using the alias Henry Smith. As the name Goldman is not common, someone might catch on. Henry is expected to succeed James and lead Golden Gate after him. Sending his son to OTK Company instead of Goldman Gate might be to let him gain varied experiences. So, I decided to let him have his way. Please take on the role of team leader for the promotions team. Henry was slightly taken aback. Are you talking to me? He is someone who will eventually leave for Golden Gate. It must be a question of whether such an important task can be entrusted to someone like himself. Your grandfather has not officially retired yet. We don't know when that will be, but until then, please handle this team well. Henry nodded with a smile. Got it. I went outside with Taekyu and Senior Sanjiap. Let's have a cup of coffee, Taekyu suggested. In the outdoor lounge area by the back door, there was a bench along with a coffee vending machine. In reality, it was the smoking area for the employees. As it was just after the lunch hour, a few employees were smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee. They greeted us as we passed by. Taekyu said, let's not worry about them and relax while we drink. Senior Sanjiap inserted a coin and got a coffee. What do you want to drink? Coffee. I'll have hot chocolate. Usually we drink Americano, so it had been a while since we had vending machine coffee. We used to have it often when we were in school. Thinking about the old days while doing this. We sat side by side on the bench and sipped our coffee. It was still chilly, but the weather was gradually getting milder. I thought January would be better after the crazy busyness of December, but it's even busier, Sanjiap lamented. It might get better once the new recruits adapt to their tasks. Sanjiap let out a sigh at my words. It takes a few months to train them. Until then, it's going to be another uphill battle. That's true. When are you going to the US? Tomorrow. So early. I need to go ahead and handle some work. An international event will be held in the US in January. It's the presidential inauguration. Ronald, who was elected last November, will soon become the real president of the United States. The inauguration is scheduled to take place at Capitol Hill in front of the Congress building, and we have naturally been invited. Taekyu casually said, I'm feeling a bit unwell. Since I'll be resting at home, can you not go alone? No. You have to come. Why? I'll feel lonely going alone. The next day, we boarded a plane bound for Detroit. After taking a nap on the plane, we suddenly arrived at the airport. Upon exiting the immigration hall, security guards and a vehicle were waiting. We got into the car and headed to the Caros headquarters. Caros merged with Chrysler and relocated its headquarters to Detroit, turning the Silicon Valley headquarters into a research facility. In the meeting room, the executives, including Daryl, were gathered. Daryl warmly welcomed us. Long time no see. Thank you for coming. Nice to meet you. We exchanged greetings and took our seats. Currently, OTK Company holds a 96% stake in Caros. Even if we combine the stakes of all the other companies we own, it still doesn't match up to Caros, making it essentially our main business. Ryan stood up. I will begin the management report. Although I already knew the contents from reviewing the materials, I listened attentively. Chrysler was barely staying afloat before our acquisition. During the 2008 financial crisis, the big three automakers in the US, GM, Ford, and Chrysler, barely survived thanks to bailout funds. While some companies managed to improve their financial health, Chrysler was not among them. As sales declined, funds became scarce, hindering engine development. Their new models only had superficial changes with a few added features. It was like putting makeup on without changing the core. Naturally, quality and fuel efficiency suffered, leading to growing consumer dissatisfaction. If it were the 90s, they might have endured in this state somehow. But the future is approaching faster than anticipated. Autonomous driving technology is already in use, and spotting electric cars on the roads is becoming more common. In situations like this, a company without technological expertise is essentially slowly dying. That must be the reason why the FCA Group hurried to sell off. Up to this point, it is already a known fact. I have instructed them to focus on quality improvement and new car development, even if sales decline. However, another problem arose as a result. Daryl said, complaints keep coming in from the dealerships. What are they saying? They are demanding an increase in incentives, citing a significant decrease in income due to declining sales. Some dealerships threaten to boycott sales if their demands are refused. The structure of the automotive industry is more complex than one might think. First, you have to make the cars and then sell them to consumers. Selling is not the end. Providing ongoing repairs and maintenance is also essential. When consumers purchase a car for $30 million, they might think all that money goes straight into the pockets of the car manufacturer, but that's not the case. A single car contains around 30,000 parts. No single company can produce all these parts, so they have to be supplied by various partner companies which must be paid for. While it would be ideal for the car manufacturer to sell the cars directly, dealerships are responsible for distribution. They actively market and sell cars on behalf of the manufacturers. In return, they take a commission. They also perform various roles such as repairs, maintenance, and financing. In the end, the revenue from selling a car is divided among the car manufacturer, partner companies, and dealerships. Even if you sell a car for 30 million won, the actual money the car manufacturer receives is often less than half. Most car manufacturers have contracts with multiple dealerships, including premium brands like BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Porsche. One might think cutting ties with dealerships and selling through the internet and company-owned stores would be a solution, but it's not that simple. Cars require hands-on experience before purchase, making the sales network crucial. In Korea, European car companies like Unsung have company-owned stores and dealerships operating together. Depending on where you buy, whether at a company store or a dealership, different incentives are allocated. Unsung prefers sales through company-owned stores. Therefore, while the trend in the domestic market is to gradually increase company-owned stores, foreign sales have no choice but to rely solely on the country's dealer network. Taekyu asked, if we terminate the contract, won't they suffer losses too? That's true. Since it's unlikely for dealer networks to be fooled, they will make contracts with other complete car manufacturers and sell their cars instead. I sighed inwardly. So now even the dealer is causing trouble. /n. You can read up to chapter 155 plus by supporting me on patreon.com/inkbound. Replace it equals A. The automobile manufacturer enters into contracts with dealer companies and provides incentives based on sales volume. When incentives increase, the dealer's share also grows. Naturally, they will become more proactive in selling to move even just one more unit. Therefore, when sales volume or market share declines, it is common to increase incentives for the dealer companies. However, if increasing incentives does not lead to the anticipated rise in sales, it can actually lead to losses. This is because if we increase the dealer's share, our profit margin naturally decreases. The automotive industry's operating profit margin is not particularly high compared to other manufacturing sectors. Even premium German brands like BMW and Mercedes barely exceed 10%, with many operating below 5%. In the case of Unsung Motors, the sales margin peaked above 10%, but it currently hovers around 6%. If the dealers decide to boycott sales, we may have to partially halt factory operations. One of the three big lies in business is that we sell at a loss. However, sometimes this is true. Companies will sell below cost when inventory piles up. They do this because it ultimately becomes more profitable than holding unsold stock. Automobile companies have significant fixed costs. Whether cars sell or not, these costs continuously accumulate. If production begins to slow down, losses can escalate uncontrollably. Taekyu asked me, do other companies also have to watch the dealers closely? There's one exception. Where is that? Tesla. Unlike other automobile manufacturers that contract with dealer companies, Tesla has established company-owned showrooms in major cities for exhibitions and test drives, selling their vehicles online. This is possible for two reasons. First, Tesla is a startup. Since there was no initial contract with dealers, they could adopt an online sales model without friction. Second, they occupy a unique position in the electric vehicle market. Consumers seek them out for purchases, so there's no need to rely on the dealer network. Not long ago, the newly launched Model T serves as a prime example. The company started taking reservations a year before its release, and despite requiring a $1,000 deposit, they attracted 500,000 reservations. When you think about it, Tesla's ability to continue investing despite massive losses is largely due to the absence of margins paid to dealerships. Taekyu scratched his head. I thought that just investing money would solve everything. Reality is indeed tough. That's true. He never anticipated facing such a complex situation. So, what's the reason for the declining sales? The answer is obvious. Other companies' cars are simply better. I asked Sergey, how much cash do we currently have? Just under $10 billion. OTK company has invested $25 billion in Karos. They have already spent over $15 billion on mergers, acquisitions, and factory construction. It's hard to slow the pace of building factories in the Rust Belt. Increasing manufacturing jobs in the U.S. is Ronald's core promise, and it's not an exaggeration to say that's what got him elected. If he now tries to back out, both Rust Belt voters and Ronald won't stay silent. Once the factory is completed, production will more than double. However, if sales don't pick up, the factory will end up being a bottomless pit. The maintenance costs will keep rising, causing losses to snowball. With technology development, new car development, factory construction, and mergers and acquisitions, there are endless places for money to go. On the other hand, the incoming cash is on the verge of stopping. If things go wrong, the company could collapse before even launching a proper new car. Ryan said, "How about launching a facelift model and strengthening promotions? That might extinguish the immediate fire. But how long will that last?" Due to a lack of timely investments, both the frame and engine have aged. Changing only the design and interior materials has its limits now. I looked around the executives and said coldly, "It wasn't Chrysler that acquired Keros. It was Keros that acquired Chrysler. You are not the executives of Chrysler but the executives of Keros. Do you understand what I mean?" The executives looked at me in unison. The Chrysler brand will disappear in the future. What you need to create is not Chrysler cars but Keros cars. Ryan spoke up. The question is whether we can hold out until then. If our relationship with dealers deteriorates, future sales will also be affected. Don't worry about conflicts with the dealers. If we create cars that consumers want to buy, they will reach out to us. We can't be dragged along by dealers forever. We should consider direct sales like Tesla this time. The real question is whether we can create cars that attractive. But I need to trust in Keros technology. I invested in Keros because I had a dream of creating a car that no one has been able to make until now. You don't need to worry about funding. Whether we sell another company or go public, I'll secure the support somehow. So, focus on making the cars you want to create. The CEO of Keros, Daryl Seguin, was also invited to the inauguration ceremony. As I was getting ready to head to Washington, D.C., I received a call from Golden Gate CEO, James C. Goldman. "I heard you've arrived in the United States. How have you been?" "Thanks to your concern, I've been doing well." We exchanged greetings after a long time. "Is Henry doing well there?" "He's been a tremendous help." James chuckled. "Haha, that's good to hear. The inauguration is just 2 days away, isn't it? Will you be attending as well?" During the presidential election, almost all financial firms supported Diane. The only exception was Golden Gate. Golden Gate withdrew from Diane's camp at the last minute and sided with Ronald. It was probably his decision. "Someone else will be going in my place. I'm not a fan of crowded places." "I see." True to his reputation as a reclusive investor, he won't show up at official events. "I heard you'll be stopping by Detroit before heading to Washington, D.C., so I've arranged a private jet at the airport for you." "You even arranged a private jet for me?" "It feels a bit burdensome, but it wouldn't be polite to refuse such generosity." "Thank you for your consideration. Then I look forward to seeing you soon." I said my goodbyes and hung up. You asked, "What did James say?" "He said to cancel the plane ticket." At the airport, a Gulfstream was waiting. Daryl spoke with a hint of amazement. "Thanks to you, I get to ride a private jet." We sat facing each other comfortably. I had been on one before and the seats were spacious and cozy. I've never attended a presidential inauguration in Korea, yet here I am invited to the US one. Right? It is quite amazing. Thinking about it, it really was extraordinary. You pulled a beer from the refrigerator and handed it to me. "Remember when we went to Japan and got stuck on that trip?" "Yeah. I first realized how cramped budget airline economy seats were back then. That trip was fun. I didn't find it that enjoyable. For 4 days we barely got to tourist spots and were dragged around Akihabara, Comiket and various places. I ended up with my suitcase packed full of manga and game CDs, having bought nothing for myself. I should have seen it coming when they offered to cover accommodation. But it must have been a good memory for You. I asked Daryl, "What's the current public opinion on Ronald?" He gave a wry smile. "His support in the Rust Belt remains high. That's a relief. But not in other regions." I figured as much. Typically, when a new government is launched, there's a rise in approval ratings due to expectations. Surprisingly, however, Ronald's approval ratings have been on a downward trend since his election. Currently, his approval rating is even lower than his vote percentage. Protests against Ronald continue across the globe, including in the US. For business to succeed, Ronald really needs to improve. I kept discussing the future situation with Daryl. If we hurry, we could launch an internal combustion vehicle with autonomous driving technology this year. But ultimately, the future cars are electric or hydrogen cars equipped with self-driving technology. Right now, though, we only have the software technology available. No matter how good the operating system, we still need CPUs, semiconductors, and motherboards to run it. The problem lies with the batteries. Electric vehicles require large-capacity batteries instead of fuel tanks. However, there are only a limited number of companies capable of mass-producing car batteries. Thus, collaborating with battery companies is essential for launching electric vehicles. From the perspective of automakers, selling electric vehicles means sharing profits with battery companies. This hesitation has slowed the expansion of electric vehicles. However, while changes can be postponed, they cannot be halted. As established automakers hesitated, the startup Tesla swiftly entered the market in partnership with the Japanese battery company Technics. As Tesla began to lead the electric vehicle market, established automakers who had been idle all began developing and launching electric vehicles. However, they are currently just trying to catch up with Tesla. It's like Kodak sticking to film cameras and missing the shift to digital cameras. Take-You nodded. Just as Nintendo, which pushed for ROM cartridges, was outcompeted by Sony PlayStation, which chose CDs? That's surprisingly accurate. The operating system created by Keros is a system that can control not only autonomous driving but the entire vehicle. Because of this, it's more suited for electric vehicles than for internal combustion ones. We should consider acquiring or collaborating with a battery company. Is the problem ultimately about money? As we talked, the private jet flew toward Washington, D.C. The presidential inauguration took place in front of the Capitol Hill. Security was tight. Invitations were checked and attendees had to undergo thorough body searches, much like when boarding a plane. While the scrutiny felt excessive, no one complained. Since the 9/11 attacks, this level of security has been a part of everyday life for Americans. The weather had been bad for the past few days and it seemed about to rain. However, umbrellas were prohibited due to security concerns. Outside the inauguration site, a protest against Ronald was in full swing. Hundreds were staging a surprise demonstration, holding signs while police forcibly dispersed and arrested protesters. Despite this, the inauguration venue was packed with spectators. Delegates from 92 countries attended to congratulate Ronald. Take-You said, "Isn't that our country's prime minister over there?" Turning to look, I spotted Prime Minister Huang Qusang among various politicians and business leaders. It was hard to see their faces from a distance. I told Take-You, who was anxiously scanning the area, "Stop looking around so much, it's distracting." "Why? It's fascinating." Honestly, I felt the same way. Wow. Diane is here too. Her arrival stirred a light buzz in the inauguration venue. This was her first public appearance since her defeat in the presidential election. She greeted several people with a bright smile and handshakes. "You look cheerful." Inside, it's a different story. Diane came from the prominent political Underwood family and had served as a senator and secretary of state, making her an elite politician. Ronald Stamp, a political maverick, was her opponent. However, the results were unexpected. In the voting results, Diane led Ronald by over 3 million votes, but she fell significantly behind in the Electoral College. It would be fair to say that her political career was effectively over after this presidential defeat. As Diane was shaking hands with those around her, she suddenly walked over in our direction. Take-You poked me in the side. "Is she coming to you?" "No way." But truly, Diane stood right in front of me and extended her hand. "Nice to meet you. I'm Diane Underwood." There was a natural dignity in her expression and voice. I absent-mindedly took her hand. "Nice to meet you. I'm Kong Jin-Hu." She gave me a pointed remark. "We had a chance to meet before, but it seems this is our first time seeing each other here." It seemed she remembered that I had requested a meeting before the election. Diane had declined and I went straight to Ronald afterward. "It's an honor to meet you." At my words, she smiled. "I wish we could have met a bit earlier." If that had been the case, would the person being inaugurated today have been Diane instead of Ronald? Well, assumptions in history are often meaningless. There seemed to be a deep sense of regret in her gaze as she looked at me. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Diane turned away. The swearing-in ceremony began as rain lightly fell. In this presidential election, most major corporations and financial institutions supported Diane. Ronald was such an unconventional figure with almost no chance of winning. However, once he was elected, the situation changed. Companies eager to support Ronald began lining up, and record amounts of political donations poured into the inauguration. On the other hand, he maintained a strained relationship with the media. CNN, NBC, and The Washington Post attacked Ronald's statements and policies, while Ronald fought back on Twitter, labeling them as fake news, igniting a keyboard battle. Though his harsh words and insults persisted, the atmosphere had shifted. It was now accepted behavior. As Vice President Mike Bauer completed his oath, Ronald Stamper stood before Chief Justice Rupert to take his own presidential oath. Ronald placed his left hand on the Bible, raised his right hand, and confidently declared, "I solemnly swear to faithfully execute the office of President of the United States, and to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. May God bless us." Applause erupted. The crowd thundered with cheers. From this moment, Ronald, a real estate mogul and political outsider, became the president driving America for the next 4 years. Taiku and I clapped enthusiastically. Standing on the platform, Ronald delivered his inaugural address with his trademark exaggerated gestures and a strong tone. For decades, foreign companies have prospered at the expense of American businesses, and while we've funded military efforts in other nations, our military strength has been waning. Other countries have grown wealthy because of us, yet our wealth has diminished. Factories have closed, machinery has rusted, and people have lost jobs. Millions of American workers and the middle class have endured great suffering. We are here to make a new declaration. As your president, I will prioritize America's interests above all else. I will implement policies to benefit American workers in trade, taxes, immigration, and foreign relations. We will protect our borders, our factories, and our jobs. We will build walls on our borders and defend trade to create a strong and prosperous nation. Well, this is something. Though I expected it, his speech was even more forceful than anticipated. I could see the representatives from various countries looking increasingly somber. The inaugural speech can be summarized in one phrase: America first. After World War II, the United States emerged as the world leader both economically and militarily. The Bretton Woods Agreement established the dollar as the world's reserve currency, while U.S. military forces acted as global police in conflict zones, with over 20,000 U.S. troops stationed in South Korea alone. This resulted in the U.S. facing both immense profits and losses. While preaching the gospel of free trade, the country had to endure significant trade deficits, a fate of reserve currency nations, and defense spending skyrocketed, exacerbating the existing financial deficit. Nonetheless, this was both a duty and a right for the U.S. Ronald Stamper has now declared that the U.S. will prioritize rights over duties. This signifies a complete shift in U.S. foreign policy going forward. Stamper is already looking to form an alliance with Russia to counter China. For Russia, which has been at odds with the West due to the annexation of Crimea and the conflict in eastern Ukraine, this news is welcome. However, NATO allies may feel betrayed. The trade war was already on the horizon. Plans include reducing trade deficits with China, abandoning the TPP, Trans-Pacific Strategic Economic Partnership, and re-evaluating various trade agreements, including the Korea-US Free Trade Agreement. It looks like China, Korea, and Japan will take the brunt of this. What's crucial is that I played a role in shaping this trend and currently stand at its center. Economies dislike uncertainty. It's easier to leap into water if a fire is visible, but if thick fog obscures all, taking a single step forward becomes impossible. If Diane had won, she would have continued the previous administration's policies. However, Americans chose change over stability. As anticipation and concern intertwined, the inauguration ceremony concluded smoothly. After the inauguration ceremony, Washington, D.C. became a venue for diplomacy. Representatives from various countries and business leaders lined up to meet the new American president. In the meantime, they also held discussions among themselves. After checking the news on my phone, it seemed that Prime Minister Huang Qusang was actively meeting with Japan and China. Despite not taking a separate number, Ronald made time for us. As we entered, a large older man warmly welcomed us. "It's been a while. How have you been?" "Of course. This was our second direct meeting. The first time we met, he was merely the Republican presidential candidate with very little chance of winning, but now he is the president of the world's most powerful country. Haha, that's a relief. Thanks to your concern, Mr. President. Please have a seat. We took our seats. Although Ronald's expression was cheerful, he looked quite tired. Given that he is 70 years old, he is the oldest president in U.S. history. He probably hasn't had much rest due to preparations for the inauguration. I enjoyed your inaugural speech. How was it? Inaugural speeches by U.S. presidents are often eloquent. Notably, there's the inaugural address by the 35th President John F. Kennedy. Compared to that, Ronald's speech felt like it was at an elementary school level, but I shook my head and said, it was concise and clear. It's the best inaugural speech I've heard. Ronald burst into laughter, seemingly pleased. Haha, you have quite the eye for detail. I feel a twinge of guilt for lying. What are your future plans? It's as I mentioned before. We plan to build a factory in the U.S., employ American workers and manufacture cars for Americans. It would be even better if we could export them. The U.S. is not the most attractive environment for manufacturing. Labor costs are high and taxes are steep. As a result, most manufacturing plants have migrated to Mexico or Southeast Asia. To solve this problem, tariffs on imports need to be imposed and corporate taxes should be reduced. Both of these are part of Ronald's pledges. Additionally, we hope for significant deregulation regarding self-driving technology. That way we can fully utilize the technological prowess of Keros. Ronald nodded, seeming pleased with my response. Other companies should take a page from OTK Company. Even if they don't want to, I think everyone will have to follow suit. All companies must already be feeling immense pressure to establish factories in the U.S. A staff member approached and quietly said, "You need to move on to your next appointment." Understood. We stood up from our seats. Ronald extended his hand. Feel free to reach out whenever you face difficulties. I'll help as much as I can. Thank you, Mr. President. I played a crucial role in Ronald's election. In a way, I'm a founding figure. But how long will that last? One commonality between politics and business is their fickleness. Sweet things are ingested while bitter things are spat out. No matter how good the relationship, if it no longer benefits them, they will discard you without hesitation. Conversely, even a poor relationship can thrive if it remains mutually beneficial. The merger of three parties in 1990 reflects this, just as the current relationship between Apple and Samsung Electronics does. Ronald is no longer a real estate mogul. He is now the president. However, his style is still that of a businessman. Business exists when there is something to exchange between parties. To maintain relationships, one must continuously prove their own value. Otherwise, they could be discarded at any time. With that thought in mind, I shook hands with the President of the United States. Daryl told me, I'm going to head to the Silicon Valley Research Center first. Already? Your advice to create the car I want has been stuck in my mind. I thought I'd take a break while I'm here, but I can't sit still. Looking at his expression, I figured there was no point in trying to persuade him. Then take the private jet. We'll be heading back to Korea anyway. Take-Q nodded in agreement. Exactly. It's not like we're paying for the fuel. Daryl laughed at our remarks. Understood. Daryl left for the airport and we headed to the hotel. Due to the inauguration ceremony, the nearby luxury hotels were fully booked. However, thanks to Ronald's consideration, we managed to get a room at the Stamper Hotel, which, as the name suggests, is owned by Ronald. When we showed our passports at the lobby, we were taken to the penthouse. True to its status as the most expensive room in a top-tier hotel, it had a loft structure and lavish decor. Taekyu immediately changed out of his suit and into gray sweatpants, then flopped down. Odd how I can breathe. I sat on the sofa loosening my tie and buttons, feeling completely drained. Just as I was about to rest, a call came in from the lobby. You have a visitor. Who could be visiting me all the way here in America? Very few people know I'm staying here. Who is it? They said you'd know if we mentioned L6. L6. I decided to let them up and ended the call. Taekyu asked, who is it? They said L6. Is it on the phone? Who could it be? A moment later, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, a man was standing there. He was a clean-looking Korean man in his mid-40s, wearing gold-rimmed glasses. I was taken aback when I saw him. What is this guy doing here? Taekyu, popping his head in, was surprised. Oh, it's the guy who made L6. The man greeted us. Nice to meet you. I'm Jin Yong. We sat facing each other on the living room sofa. So, Vice Chairman Im Jin Yong also attended the inauguration ceremony. Well, a company like Samsung Group would definitely be invited. Did he come as part of the delegation with Prime Minister Huang Q-sang? Taekyu had been staring intently at his face. Vice Chairman Im asked, "Is something on my face?" "No, it's just that it's amazing to see someone I usually only see on TV right in front of me. In a way, it's not an exaggeration to say he's the most famous person we've met so far. Even though Chase Southwell is a legendary investor in Asia, the average person doesn't know him well, and James C. Goldman, true to his reclusive investor image, isn't even recognized. Ronald was just a candidate when I first met him. On the other hand, there's probably no one in South Korea who doesn't know Im Jin Yong's name. Honestly, I feel a bit amazed too. Who would have thought I'd get to meet the vice chairman of Samsung Electronics in my lifetime? Is that so? I don't usually make many appearances on TV. Taekyu waved his hand. Oh, come on. You've been in the news a lot because of things like evading military service and improper management succession. You even got divorced last year. I was so embarrassed I couldn't raise my head. I nudged him in the side and whispered, "You shouldn't say that right in front of him." Taekyu shrugged. Why not? It's the truth. Just because it's the truth doesn't mean it should be said, like saying bald in front of a bald person. Thanks to him, I guess maintaining a good relationship with Samsung Group is out of the question now. If it had been someone else, they might have stormed out or flushed with embarrassment. But Vice Chairman Im Jin Yong burst into laughter. Haha, this is really the first time I've heard such words to my face. I'll apologize on his behalf. At my words, Vice Chairman Im waved his hand. It's all right. I've seen even worse comments online. He genuinely didn't seem too bothered. By the way, it seems that the vice chairman of Samsung Electronics checks online comments too. Now that I see, you're quite magnanimous. If he's a magnanimous person, then he is. If he's small-minded, then he is. What language is magnanimous, anyway? Taekyu placed a hand on my shoulder and said, "And don't worry too much about the negative comments. They're nothing compared to what this guy gets." So these days I just don't look at comments at all. A trade deficit occurs when a country's imports exceed its exports over a specific period. This means that the nation is buying more goods and services from other countries than it is selling to them. While a trade deficit can indicate a strong domestic demand for foreign products, it may also raise concerns about economic health, competitiveness, and reliance on foreign goods. Long-term deficits can impact currency value and economic stability, prompting discussions on trade policies and strategies to balance trade. John F. Kennedy delivered many significant speeches during his presidency. One of his most famous is the inaugural address from January 20, 1961. In this speech, he called for unity, emphasized the importance of freedom, and famously urged Americans to ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. The Trans-Pacific Eco-Partnership, TPP, is an initiative aimed at fostering collaboration among countries in the Asia-Pacific region to promote sustainable economic development and environmental protection. It emphasizes shared values, best practices, and the integration of environmental considerations into trade and investment policies. Vice Chairman Im Jin Yong placed the coffee he brought on the table. "I heard you like coffee." "I don't drink coffee," Taekyu said. "One is hot chocolate." "Oh. Thank you. I'll enjoy it." It seemed he had a decent understanding of our preferences. Taekyu quickly drank the hot chocolate and I sipped the coffee. Vice Chairman Im Jin Yong slowly took a sip of his coffee and said, "It seems like quite a remarkable connection. During the L6 incident, I knew someone had invested in put options, but I never expected it would be OTK company." "Ah, that's right. If you hadn't discontinued the product back then, we would have been in serious trouble. Thinking back, that was the start of our investment journey. If we hadn't managed to earn money back then, we probably wouldn't have invested in startups later on, and during Brexit a year later, we would just be twiddling our thumbs. Even now it's dizzying to think about. If we had mismanaged it, we would have had to completely withdraw from the smartphone business. Fortunately, we handled it well. We immediately discontinued the product without fearing immediate losses and initiated exchanges and refunds. That decision turned out to be lucky for us. If he hadn't made that move, we would have lost over 10 billion won. Even if we had managed to invest and make some money with the remaining funds, it would have taken us at least 5 more years to reach this point. The person who made that discontinuation decision back then is right in front of me, Vice Chairman Im Jin-young. In the end, I believe that decision was beneficial for both sides, he remarked. Taekyu nodded in agreement. That's right. After that, Samsung Electronics also hit the jackpot. Despite the nightmare of AL6, the subsequent launch of AL7 took off like a rocket, reviving the IM division, and the booming global economy caused semiconductor demand to skyrocket. Thanks to that, the stock price, which had stagnated around 1.3 million won after the explosion, is now over 2 million won, and the market capitalization has surpassed 300 trillion won. Now that I think about it, there's one more connection between us. Do you know what it is? While Im Jin-young was born into one of Korea's top conglomerate families and raised as a successor, I was born and raised in an ordinary middle-class family. I wondered if there was any real connection between us, but I heard you graduated from the Western History Department at Korea University. At my words, Vice Chairman Im Jin-young laughed and nodded. I see you know. How could I not know? Vice Chairman Im donates a large scholarship to his alma mater every year. When I was a student, the current students also referred to him as the senior from a conglomerate. By the way, there are quite a few senior conglomerates from Korea University. While science and engineering or arts fields have many prestigious schools like KAIST or Pohang University of Science and Technology, humanities, linguistics, economics, business, and law have traditionally been strong at Korea University. Therefore, many offspring of conglomerates have enrolled there since long ago, though studying abroad is trending nowadays. Taekyu said in admiration, "Oh, what a connection. Then since Jin-hoo is a junior, you can just call him comfortably." Huh. Suddenly I realized. Our majors are different and I haven't even graduated yet. Taekyu confidently said, "In South Korea, it's all about blood relations, connections and academic ties. At least we've got one." Vice Chairman Im asked with a smile, "Is that all right?" I nodded and said, "That would be convenient. I'll call you senior too. I'm not particularly invested in such formalities, but it is true that we have a senior-junior relationship." Taekyu added a remark. "My sister also graduated from Korea University." Yes, I believe Director Oh Hyunju graduated from the Department of Economics. Since my biological sister is your junior, I'll also call you senior. What kind of logic is this? Vice Chairman Im Jin-young looked indifferent. Honestly, I've wanted to meet you for a long time. I even considered visiting the OTK company building. Were there any reasons you couldn't? Because there are too many eyes watching in Korea. If we had met, it would likely have made the news. Even if we met for no reason, the purpose would have been widely speculated. Taekyu said, "We could have just called or video chatted. But nothing compares to meeting in person. When the telephone was first invented, people thought meetings would drastically decrease. Yet that hasn't been the case. The main reason is that the content of a conversation takes up less than 10% of the communication. The rest consists of nonverbal elements such as eye contact, facial expressions, tone, and gestures. Video calls do convey these nonverbal cues better than regular phone calls, but still nothing beats face-to-face interactions. That's why, despite all the advancements in communication technology, people still fly to the other side of the world for business." I took a sip of my coffee. Wasn't it said that not meeting in Korea was due to the many eyes watching? Did he deliberately come from the US to see me? Even now he came alone without bodyguards or staff. Does this mean there is a reason to conceal the fact that we're meeting? May I ask what brings you to us? Vice Chairman Im Jin-young put down his coffee and said, "I've come to ask for help from my juniors." The vice chairman of the leading Samsung group is asking me for help? Taekyu asked, "What kind of help?" Vice Chairman Im Jin-young's expression turned serious. "Before we discuss anything, there's an important fact I should share with you first." An important fact? We waited in silence for him to continue. After a brief pause, Vice Chairman Im Jin-young sighed and said, "It seems my father will soon pass away. Im Il-kwon is the third son of Im Young-cheol, the founder of Samsung Group. Despite having older brothers, Chairman Im Young-cheol chose his third son, Im Il-kwon, as his successor. At that time he faced opposition from both the eldest and second sons, but it later proved to be the right decision. Until the 1970s, Samsung Electronics simply produced and sold home appliances, having received technology transfers from Japanese electronics companies. Im Young-cheol realized that if things continued this way, Samsung Electronics would never escape the shadow of Japanese firms. He decided to enter the semiconductor industry. DRAM development was technically challenging and required immense investment. Most related patents were held by American and Japanese companies. It was not an easy market for an ordinary electronics company with insufficient technology and capital to enter. Chairman Im Young-cheol acquired a semiconductor company on the brink of bankruptcy and embarked on DRAM development. While everyone opposed the decision, only Im Il-kwon actively supported his father's choice, and Im Young-cheol entrusted him with the task. The following years were filled with hardships. Instead of profits, billions in losses piled up. Each year, the profits from the entire Samsung Group were used to cover the semiconductor division's losses. A pervasive sense of crisis emerged. Things went wrong, not just Samsung Electronics but the entire group could collapse. Japanese electronics companies scoffed, predicting that Samsung Electronics would fail within a few years. Though it might be hard to believe now, until the early 1990s, the global electronics market was dominated by Japanese firms such as Sony, Panasonic, Hitachi, and Toshiba. However, just 10 years after entering the semiconductor market, Samsung Electronics rose to the top of the memory semiconductor industry. By the 1990s, they began to overtake Japanese firms, eventually dominating the NAND flash sector as well. Japanese electronics companies, which had mocked Samsung Electronics at that time, have either gone bankrupt or dwindled to small enterprises. In contrast, Samsung Electronics grew to become the world's largest IT manufacturer, based on its immense success in semiconductors. Its market capitalization is now larger than that of Japan's top 10 electronics firms combined, even surpassing Toyota, Japan's leading company. Though it may not match the likes of Alibaba or WeChat in China, it ranks among the top 5 in all of Asia. Considering South Korea's population and economic power, this is an astonishing achievement. Had bold decisions not been made at that time, Samsung Electronics might have disappeared or remained a mediocre company. It could have even been acquired by Chinese capital like Sharp. Chairman Im Il-kwon has dedicated his life to nurturing the current Samsung Group and Samsung Electronics. Despite his old age, he continues to lead various group issues, demonstrating his capabilities. A few years ago he eventually collapsed due to old age and was hospitalized. Contrary to expectations that he would quickly recover, his hospitalization lasted longer, and his eldest son, Im Jin-young, stepped in to manage the company in his father's place. His condition is currently very critical. He has decided not to receive life-sustaining treatment, so it will likely be difficult for him to endure for long. At most he may last about 2 weeks. The power of modern medicine is truly astonishing. Even the most critical patients can somehow have their hearts beating and blood circulating. Whether we can truly consider that state as being alive is debatable, but nonetheless we can delay death for as long as possible. However, as he mentioned, Chairman Im Il-kwon has consistently expressed his refusal of life-sustaining treatment. I'm not sure what words of comfort to offer. I've been mentally prepared for this for a long time, so I'm fine, said Vice Chairman Im Jin-young calmly. Since being hospitalized, Chairman Im Il-kwon has not given any media interviews, and no one other than medical staff and family has been allowed near his hospital room. As a result, rumors spread about him being in a vegetative state or already deceased. Regardless, opinions were dominated by the belief that a return to management would be difficult and that he wouldn't last much longer. Though I had somewhat anticipated this, hearing it directly from him was shocking. No matter how rich or high in status one is, death cannot be averted. This simple and obvious truth weighed heavily on me. Is it all right for you to share this with us? Chairman Im Il-kwon's health issues are extremely sensitive. If news of his death spreads, it would send shockwaves throughout not only the Samsung Group but the entire stock market. Eventually everyone will know. Although I have been preparing for this inevitability for a long time, various issues will arise after he passes. Even for an ordinary family, a father's passing is a significant event. Leaving aside the emotional challenges, there are countless tasks from funeral arrangements to inheritance issues. The situation becomes even more complicated with substantial inheritances. It's not uncommon for siblings to argue at funerals over estate distribution. How much more difficult must it be for a chaebol? Chairman Im Il-kwon's wealth is approximately 20 trillion won. He has consistently held the top spot in South Korea's wealth rankings, though unfortunately last year he had to relinquish that position to a newly wealthy individual due to Brexit. What does various problems mean? Vice Chairman Im Jin-young answered my question simply. It's a management dispute. As I suspected, I had a hunch about it when I brought it up earlier. Im Il-kwon had 2 sons and a daughter with his wife, Yoon So-hyun. Although he collapsed suddenly, he was already of advanced age. Due to this, he had been methodically preparing for succession and inheritance for some time. His eldest daughter, Im Soo-mi, was assigned the hotel and duty-free business, Salon Hotel. The younger daughter, Im Soo-kyung, was given the fashion and resort business, Neverland. The youngest son, Im Sung-yong, took on the plant and heavy industry, Samsung Engineering, Samsung Heavy Industries. And for the eldest son and successor, Im Jin-young, he was assigned the holding company Samsung Materials, along with various affiliates, including the group's core Samsung Electronics. Take, you asked, surely not Samsung Electronics? Vice Chairman Im Jin-young shook his head. The electronic control isn't really an issue. As far as I knew, Vice Chairman Im Jin-young held less than 1% of Samsung Electronics shares. Chairman Im Il-kwon owned about 4%, and even including the shares held by related parties, it amounted to just under 20%. In contrast, foreign investors, including private equity funds, sovereign wealth funds, hedge funds, and asset management firms, held over 50%. However, given the significant friendly holding shares and the board's unanimous support for Im Jin-young, the likelihood of getting embroiled in a management dispute was extremely low. Then what is the problem? The issue lies with Samsung SB. Take, you looked at me with a question. That's the battery company, right? The one that supplied the exploding L6 batteries. Exactly. Samsung SB is the company with the world's top technology and mass production system in the lithium-ion battery sector. As a subsidiary, the electronic devices sold by Samsung Electronics, such as smartphones and laptops, are equipped with batteries from Samsung SB. Not only do they excel in small battery technology, but their large battery technology is also of world-class standard, supplying electric vehicle batteries to several automakers, including BMW. The BMW i8 that Take-You bought is also equipped with a Samsung SB battery. Considering the expected expansion of the electric vehicle market in the future, the growth potential of Samsung SB seems quite significant. Who is after the management rights? My mother and younger brother. It's not uncommon for wealthy families to fight over the management rights of their subsidiaries. Perhaps that's why I didn't feel particularly moved by the story. What I'm curious about is why they are trying to drag me into their family feud. And behind it there's Unsung Motors. Vice Chairman Im Jin-young smiled as he observed my expression.